The arena roared with life, thousands of alien spectators chanting under a sky of shifting colors, the energy shields humming as the final challenge of the day began. In the middle stood the Princess of Varine, tall, armored in silver that shimmered like liquid light. She was known across the galaxy as the undefeated champion. Her voice carried through the arena. "Calm yet commanding, beat me in combat," she said, her sword pointing to the crowd, "and I will marry you." The audience screamed, waves of excitement shaking the stands. No one had ever beaten her, not in 100 trials. The title of her hand in marriage was nothing but a legend now, a joke among warriors. A dozen alien contenders had already fallen, some unconscious, some crawling away. The ground was cracked from her strikes, the air thick with the heat of her energy aura. She raised her hand again. "Who dares next?" she asked, her voice echoed like thunder. For a long moment silence followed, until a single figure stepped into the light. The crowd gasped. It was not another armored giant or mechanical warrior. It was a human. He was tall but not massive, his frame lean and his eyes calm. He wore no armor, no weapons except a small blade at his hip. The aliens laughed instantly. "A human?" One shouted, "This is no fight, it's suicide." Another yelled, "They barely survived their own planet." The princess smiled faintly, tilting her head. "A human dares challenge me?" she asked. The man nodded once. "I do," he said quietly. His voice was steady, too steady. The announcer called for the match to begin. The crowd's laughter faded into a tense murmur as the two faced each other. The princess struck first, her blade moving faster than lightning. The human moved only slightly, stepping aside as her attack missed by inches. The air cracked from the force of her swing. She turned, eyes narrowing. Her second strike came faster, but again he moved just enough. No wasted energy, no panic. He didn't even raise his blade. The crowd began to quiet, watching with unease. The human was not attacking, only moving, reading her movements. "Fight me!" she shouted, swinging harder. Her sword hit the ground, sending a shockwave across the arena. Dust flew everywhere. The human's silhouette appeared through the haze. Untouched, he spoke softly. "You fight with pride, not purpose." The words struck her like a slap. She growled, charging again. Her power flared, blue fire wrapping her body. She swung with all her strength, determined to crush him. But the moment she stepped forward, his hand moved, a blur faster than sight. Her sword went spinning out of her grasp, clattering across the floor. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to stop. The princess froze, staring at her empty hands. The human stood only a few feet away, his blade still sheathed. The crowd erupted in confusion. Some screamed, some shouted in disbelief. The alien announcer stumbled over his words. The human disarmed her, he said. The princess took a step back, breathing hard. "How?" she whispered. He didn't answer. He bowed his head slightly. "You are strong," he said quietly, "but your strength blinds you." Her face burned with anger and shame, but beneath it was something else, curiosity. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even her father, the emperor. She straightened slowly, her armor cracked, her pride shaken. "What is your name?" she asked. He looked up. "Marcus," he said simply. "Marcus of Earth," the crowd murmured, the word Earth spreading like wildfire. Some of the aliens whispered in fear. "Death Worlders," one hissed. "He's one of them." The princess stood tall again, forcing calm into her voice. "You've won," she said, "so what will you do? Take my hand? Claim your victory?" The human shook his head. "I didn't come for that," he said. The crowd gasped again. The announcer shouted, "He refuses the prize." But Marcus just looked at her with steady eyes. "You are not a trophy," he said. "You are a warrior, and you deserve respect. Not ownership." Her mouth opened slightly. Unsure what to say, for the first time in her life, someone had seen her as more than a symbol. The silence stretched until finally, she laughed softly. "You're strange." "Human," she said. "You fight with no hate, no greed." He nodded once. "We fight to survive," he said. "That's all we've ever known." The council elders, sitting above the arena, leaned toward each other. Their voices were sharp and worried. A human defeated her? One whispered, "This cannot be." Another said, "If one can do this, imagine what their armies could do." The princess caught their looks and frowned, realizing the fear in their eyes wasn't for her. It was for him. As Marcus turned to leave, guards moved quickly. Surrounding the arena, the announcer stammered as orders crackled through his comms. "By command of the Galactic Council," he said nervously, "the human is to be detained for investigation." The princess's expression hardened. "No," she said sharply. "He fought with honor. He leaves free." The guards hesitated, but she raised her hand, her royal authority silencing them. Marcus looked back at her, eyes calm again. "You don't have to do this," he said. "They'll turn against you." She smiled faintly. "They already have," she said, "but this time I choose my side." He bowed slightly, his face unreadable. "Then I thank you," he said. He stepped out of the arena, disappearing into the crowded tunnels below. The aliens in the stands whispered his name, some in awe, some in fear. The princess stood alone in the center of the battlefield, the dust settling around her armor. She looked up at the distant sky beyond the shield dome. The stars seemed brighter now, strange and alive, far above the planet. Hidden beyond sight, a dark fleet waited, thousands of ships floating silently between the stars. A voice came through a hidden channel. "The test is complete," a commander said, watching the arena through holographic eyes. "The galaxy knows now," another replied, "and soon they'll learn what humanity truly is." The screen in the command ship flickered, showing the princess standing in the arena. Looking up at the stars, the commander smiled. "She will remember," he said. She saw what one human can do. Outside, the human fleet drifted quietly, engines dark, waiting for the order to move. In the silence of space, Earth's vengeance was only beginning. The arena was empty now, the lights dimmed, and the once cheering crowd long gone. The Princess of Varine stood alone in the silence, her silver armor still scarred from the fight. Her mind echoed with the human's voice. "You fight with pride, not purpose." The words wouldn't leave her. She had fought hundreds of battles, defeated the strongest in the galaxy, and never once felt doubt. But now, for the first time, she questioned herself. Her guards approached carefully. "Your Highness, the Council demands your presence," one said. She turned slowly, her voice calm but sharp. "Do they now?" The guard nodded nervously. "They are not pleased. They call it a disgrace," she exhaled, her eyes narrowing. "Of course they do," she said. "They fear what they cannot control." She looked up at the stars through the glass dome, wondering where the human had gone. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, tension filled the air. Representatives of 100 species whispered, their glowing eyes watching her. The Supreme Chancellor, a tall alien with skin like molten stone, stood from his seat. "Princess Varine," he said, his voice echoing. "You defied direct orders. You allowed an unknown species to leave without questioning, without control." She met his gaze steadily. "He was no threat," she replied. "He fought with honor." The Chancellor's voice darkened. "He humiliated you in front of the galaxy." She smiled faintly. "He earned my respect." "Which is more than I can say for this council." Gasps rippled through the chamber. One of the elders hissed, "You dare speak against us?" She took a step forward, her boots ringing on the polished floor. "I dare speak the truth," she said. "You rule with fear. You've forgotten what real strength means." The Chancellor slammed his hand against the table, the lights flickering. "Enough!" he roared. "You will hand over all records of the human encounter and step down until an inquiry is complete." She raised her chin. "And if I refuse?" The Chancellor's eyes glowed. "Then Varine will no longer be part of this council." Outside, the hall buzzed with voices. Reporters, guards, and diplomats whispered about rebellion, betrayal, and humans. The princess walked out without a word, her guards following behind. One of them, a young soldier, leaned close and whispered, "Is it true, my lady, that one man defeated you?" She didn't answer right away. "He didn't defeat me," she said quietly. "He changed me." That night she returned to her private quarters. The city lights stretched far below, endless towers glowing under the twin moons. She stood by the balcony, replaying the battle in her mind. Every move, every word, every look, she could still feel the quiet strength in the human's eyes. He hadn't fought to win, he had fought to understand. A soft sound interrupted her thoughts, a faint beep from her communicator. She frowned, stepping closer to the console. A hidden channel was active, one not even her guards could access. "Who is this?" she asked sharply. The screen flickered, and a holographic image appeared. Marcus, the human, his face calm, his voice steady. "You're being watched," he said. She tensed instantly. "What do you mean?" He looked to the side as if checking something. "The council is afraid of what you saw," he said. "They're planning to remove you permanently." Her hand clenched around the console. "They wouldn't dare," she said. He looked at her quietly. "They already have," before she could respond. The palace lights went out. The room filled with red emergency glow. Sirens echoed across the city, and explosions rumbled in the distance. "They're attacking!" shouted one of her guards, running into the room. The princess grabbed her sword. "Evacuate the lower levels," she ordered. The guard hesitated. "My lady, the attack is coming from the council's own ships." She froze, realization hitting like a storm. Through the balcony, she saw the city burning. Ships firing energy beams into the streets, her people running for cover. "They dare attack my world," she said coldly, her voice steady even as chaos spread. Marcus's hologram flickered again. "They're trying to erase any proof of our meeting," he said. "They fear what humans represent." She turned to him. "Then help me stop them." He nodded once. "Already on my way." Minutes later, dark clouds covered the sky, and from the horizon came a fleet, small, sleek human ships moving with silent precision. The council ships turned their weapons toward them, but before they could fire, the humans vanished from radar. "Where did they go?" shouted one of the alien captains over the comms. The answer came too late. Human ships reappeared right above them, firing concentrated energy bursts that disabled the council fleet in seconds. The aliens had never seen such control. No wasted fire, no hesitation. The princess watched from her balcony as the human ships surrounded the attackers. "They came back for me," she whispered. Her guard beside her asked, "Why? Why would they risk war for you?" She smiled faintly. "Because that's what humans do. They protect what they believe in." A massive ship descended through the smoke. Landing near the royal platform, the ramp opened, and Marcus stepped out. Dressed now in dark combat armor, his calm eyes scanned the destruction. Then turned to her. "You need to leave," he said. "They'll send reinforcements." She stepped forward, her silver armor reflecting the burning city lights. "I won't run from my people," she said firmly. He looked at her for a moment, then sighed. "Then we fight together." They moved through the ruins side by side, her soldiers following behind. The council's elite guards arrived, heavily armed. The princess and Marcus fought back to back, blades flashing and energy blasts lighting the night. He moved like a shadow, his strikes exact and silent. She realized again how calm he was, even in the middle of chaos. His focus never broke. When the last enemy fell, she stood breathing hard, her sword dripping with energy sparks. "You could have left," she said. "Why risk everything for me?" He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "Because you saw me as more than a weapon," he said. "That makes you worth saving." She didn't know what to say. For once, the warrior princess felt something she couldn't name, something human. In the distance, the council's main battleship began to rise. Preparing another attack, Marcus tapped his wrist console. "We can't hold this ground," he said. "I have to call in the fleet," she frowned. "Fleet? You mean more humans?" He nodded. "Much more." The sky split open, and hundreds of massive human warships appeared above the planet, their metal hulls glowing red in the firelight. The council fleet froze mid-air, unable to move. The human commander's voice echoed through all channels. "Stand down or be erased." The princess watched the sky. Awed and terrified, she looked at Marcus. "You weren't just a warrior," she said softly. "You were a message." He gave a small nod. "Now the galaxy knows," he said. "We didn't come to conquer." We came to remind them what humanity is capable of. As dawn broke over the burning city, the council's ships retreated. Silence falling over the battlefield. The princess stood beside Marcus, looking at the horizon. "What happens now?" she asked. He looked at her. "Now?" he said quietly. "Now, the galaxy decides whether to fear us or follow us." The wind blew across the ruins, carrying the first light of morning, and for the first time, both warrior and human stood together, not as enemies, but as allies in a galaxy that would never be the same again. The smoke from the battle still hung over the city. Thick and bitter, the Princess of Varine stood among the ruins. Her armor cracked, and her people scattered. The once beautiful capital now lay silent, except for the distant cries of the wounded. Beside her, Marcus adjusted the communicator on his wrist, his face calm but alert. "The council fleet has retreated," he said quietly. "But they won't stay gone for long." She turned to him, eyes fierce. "Then we must be ready." He looked at her. "Are you ready for what comes next?" "Because they won't just attack your city, they'll come for your throne." She looked around at the destruction, her heart heavy. "Let them come," she said. "If my rule must end, then I'll fall fighting for my people." Marcus studied her silently for a moment before nodding. "Then you'll need help," he said, tapping his communicator again. A low hum filled the air as several small drones appeared from the sky, scanning the ruins. "What are they doing?" she asked. "Marking survivors," he said. "We'll get them to safety." A group of her guards approached, their faces pale with exhaustion. "My lady," one said, "the people are afraid." "They think the humans have come to conquer," she frowned. "No," she said sharply. "They came to save us." Marcus glanced at her, a faint smirk on his lips. "That's new," he said softly. She shot him a look. "You fight like a machine but talk like a poet." He shrugged. "Humans are full of surprises." Before she could reply, an explosion ripped through the air, throwing them both to the ground. A blast wave of heat rolled across the plaza. "Incoming strike!" shouted one of the guards. Marcus pulled her behind a collapsed wall. "They're back," he said, scanning the sky. Several council warships were descending through the clouds, their hulls glowing with energy. "They're not retreating," she said in shock. "They're erasing the evidence." Marcus's communicator crackled to life. "Command, this is Marcus. We need cover fire on coordinates 9-2 Alpha, he said. "Civilians in the area," a voice replied instantly. "Acknowledged. Deploying drones and rail fire." He turned to the princess. "Stay down." Moments later, the sky lit up again. But this time it wasn't the council firing. Massive human rail beams shot from orbit, slicing through the alien ships with perfect precision. The explosions painted the clouds red and gold. The princess shielded her face. "Your people fight like gods," she said. He answered simply. "We fight like survivors." When the smoke cleared, a strange silence followed. The last of the council ships burned in the distance. But Marcus didn't look relieved. His expression was dark. "This was just a test," he said quietly. "They wanted to see how fast we'd react." She frowned. "Then they'll come again." He nodded slowly. "And next time, they won't hold back." They walked through the wreckage, helping civilians. Marcus knelt beside a wounded alien child and handed her a small energy capsule. "Drink this," he said gently. The child looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. "You're human," she whispered. "The ones from the stories." He smiled softly. "Not all stories are true," he said. The princess watched him, something changing in her eyes. She had grown up believing humans were unpredictable, dangerous and primitive. But now she saw compassion in him, something the council had long forgotten. Later that night, they took shelter in an underground command center. The air was cold, the lights dim. A holographic map flickered above the table, showing red dots moving across the planet. "Council reinforcements," Marcus muttered. "They're setting up blockades." The princess studied the map. "They mean to cut us off," she said. "No food, no communication," he nodded. "Classic strategy. Starve the city until surrender." She clenched her fists. "They underestimate us," he smiled faintly. "They always do." Suddenly the hologram blinked, replaced by a new transmission. The image of the Supreme Chancellor appeared. his molten eyes burning with fury. "Princess Varine," he growled, "you have committed treason by allying with the human threat." She stepped forward, her voice firm. "I allied with honor." "Not treason," the Chancellor sneered. "You think this human will save you? He will bring ruin to your world." Marcus stepped beside her. "Funny," he said calmly. "That's what everyone says before they lose." The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "Then let us see who loses first." The transmission cut off. Leaving the room in tense silence, the princess turned to Marcus. "He's coming himself," she said. He nodded. "Good." She frowned. "Good?" He looked up at the hologram again. "Because it means he's scared." At dawn, the enemy fleet arrived, black ships blotting out the sun. Thousands of drones descended from orbit, turning the sky into fire. The princess stood at the command balcony, her troops ready. "They outnumber us 20-1, her general said nervously. She glanced at Marcus. "Numbers never win wars," she said. "Will your people help?" He pressed his wrist console. "They already are, high above." The human fleet began to move, their formation shifting like a living wave. The council ships opened fire, beams of blue energy cutting through the sky. But the human ships didn't dodge. They disappeared. "Cloaking," the princess whispered. "They're invisible." Marcus nodded. "To the eye, yes, but not to vengeance." Seconds later, the sky exploded as the hidden fleet returned fire. Human railguns pierced through alien shields like paper. The shockwave shattered windows across the city. The crowd below screamed, both in terror and awe. The council fleet fell one by one, their debris raining down like burning stars. But then a new light appeared, a massive ship, larger than all others, emerging from hyperspace. "That's the Chancellor's flagship," Marcus said, his voice tense. The princess's eyes widened. "It's heading straight for the palace." He turned to her. "Then that's where we'll go, inside the palace." The ground shook as the flagship descended. The ceiling cracked, debris falling everywhere. Marcus grabbed her hand, pulling her through the corridors. "You still have time to escape," he said. She shook her head. "I will not run from him." They reached the main hall just as the doors exploded inward. The Chancellor stepped through, his armor glowing with energy. "You've doomed us all," he roared, raising his hand. A blast of pure energy shot toward them. Marcus pushed her aside, taking the hit squarely in the chest. He fell hard, smoke rising from his armor. "Marcus!" she screamed, rushing to him. The Chancellor laughed. "See what your human savior is worth," he said. Marcus coughed, blood on his lips. "Worth more than you'll ever understand," he said weakly. His hand moved to his console, and the sky outside lit up again. The human flagship appeared above the palace, charging its main weapon. "What have you done?" the Chancellor shouted. Marcus smiled faintly. "And did this." A beam of pure light cut through the clouds, striking the Chancellor's flagship and the palace walls. The explosion shook the entire continent. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. The human fleet hovered above, motionless. The princess knelt beside Marcus, holding him as the light faded from his eyes. "You saved us," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "No," he said softly. "You saved yourself." Then he went still as dawn broke over the ruins. The princess stood before her people, battered but unbroken. The human fleet remained in the sky, watching, protecting. She looked up at them and whispered, "You showed us what courage means." In the distance, the sun rose, golden and fierce, shining over a new world, one reborn from fire, and bound forever by the memory of one human who changed everything. The morning after the great explosion, the sky above Varine was quiet for the first time in days. The clouds were painted with the ashes of battle, and the palace stood half in ruins. The princess walked slowly through the shattered halls, her armor dusty, her face pale. Every step echoed like a memory she couldn't escape. Marcus's last words still rang in her head. "You saved yourself." She stopped in the grand corridor where he had fallen. The marble floor cracked beneath the sunlight. "He saved all of us," she whispered. Her hand brushed the black mark burned into the stone where his body had been. Her general approached behind her, his voice soft. "My lady, the council fleets have withdrawn. We have control of the skies," she nodded. "And the humans? Their fleet remains," he said carefully. They're watching us. But they haven't sent any message. She turned to the balcony, where the black silhouettes of human warships floated like silent gods above the horizon. They're waiting, she murmured, for something. The general hesitated. Perhaps for orders. She looked down at the city. Or for him. For the next few days, the planet tried to rebuild. The people repaired homes, cleared rubble, and lit memorial fires for the dead. The princess worked beside them, wearing no crown, helping lift debris and bandage the wounded. Yet every night she would look up at the sky, wondering if the humans would leave, or if they would bring more war. One evening, as she stood alone on the palace balcony, a voice broke the silence. "You look tired," she froze, turning sharply. A hologram shimmered in the air behind her, a human officer with silver hair and sharp eyes. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Admiral Reyes," he said calmly, "commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Marcus served under me." Her heart tightened at the name. "Served?" she repeated quietly. "So he's truly gone." The Admiral's face softened. "He died saving your world," he said. "But his mission isn't finished." She frowned. "What mission?" "To stop the Council," Reyes said, his tone firm. "They're gathering their remaining fleets. They want revenge." She clenched her fists. "They'll destroy everything," he nodded. "Unless we act first," she looked at him, eyes wide. "You mean—" "Attack them." He didn't answer directly. "We don't want another war," he said. "But if the Council wants one, humanity won't wait this time." Before she could reply, alarms echoed through the city. The hologram flickered as her guards rushed in. "Incoming signal, my lady." One shouted, "It's the Council!" The transmission filled the air, a dozen alien leaders glaring down from the display. The Supreme Chancellor's seat was empty now, replaced by a cold, united voice. "Varine has violated the peace," one declared. "You harbored a human soldier, and your planet will pay the price." The princess stepped forward, her voice steady. "We only defended ourselves." "You brought death," another snarled. "You allied with monsters. Then maybe the monsters are the ones who taught us honor," she snapped back. The council screen went dark, but her general's voice trembled. "They're mobilizing fleets again," the admiral's hologram flickered back. "You have little time," he said. "They'll strike from orbit in less than 2 days." She looked at him. "Then what do you need from me?" He met her gaze. "Your trust by nightfall." Human ships descended, landing quietly outside the capital. Thousands of soldiers emerged, tall, armored, faces hidden behind black visors. The people of Varine watched in fear and awe as the humans moved like a storm made of shadows. The princess walked out to meet them, her silver armor shining faintly in the moonlight. "You came back," she said. Reyes stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Marcus made us promise we would." She studied him carefully. "He believed in peace," she said, "and now you're preparing for war." "Sometimes peace must be protected by fire," he said softly. The next morning, human engineers worked side by side with Varine scientists, building new defenses powered by alien crystals and human fusion cores. The princess moved among them, giving orders, but her heart was uneasy. She looked up as Reyes approached. "What's wrong?" he asked. "The council won't stop with me," she said. "They'll come for Earth next," he nodded. "That's why we can't fail here." At sunset, the first wave of council ships appeared on the edge of the atmosphere. Thousands of them, their hulls glimmering like blades. The alarms blared again, and the city plunged into red light. "Positions!" shouted the general. "All shields up!" The humans formed ranks along the defensive line. Cannons glowing blue. Reyes's voice cut through the comms. "Fleet, prepare for orbital lock. Target enemy flagships." The princess stood beside him. Watching the sky turn into a storm. "They're too many," she said. "Oh, we'll never hold." Reyes smiled slightly. "That's what they always think." The first blasts came down. Massive energy strikes that shattered mountains, but human shields absorbed the hits, glowing brighter with every impact. "Return fire," Reyes commanded. The ground trembled as rail beams shot upward, tearing through enemy cruisers like paper. The sky burned with light and fire. Suddenly, one of the human officers shouted, "Sir! Multiple energy spikes from the Council's lead ship." Reyes turned sharply. "They're charging a super weapon." The princess's eyes widened. "If that hits, it'll destroy the whole city." He nodded grimly. "We need to take it out now." Before he could issue the order, a smaller ship detached from the human fleet, flying straight toward the enemy line. "Who's piloting that?" Reyes demanded. "It's unregistered," his officer said. The princess stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "I know that signature," she whispered on the screen. The ship's ID flickered. "Marcus 9. Reyes froze. "That's impossible," he said. The ship streaked toward the Council fleet, weaving through enemy fire. "It can't be him," she murmured. "He's gone." But as the ship neared the enemy weapon core, a familiar voice echoed through the comms. "Sorry I missed the funeral." The princess's heart stopped. "Marcus," she breathed. His voice came again, calm as ever. "I told you I'd finish the mission." Reyes's voice cracked through the channel. "Marcus, that ship's reactor will blow." "I know," he said softly. "Tell her." The galaxy's in her hands now. The ship dove straight into the Council flagship. And for a heartbeat, everything went silent. Then came the light, blinding, endless light. The explosion tore through the fleet, ripping apart every ship in range. When it finally faded, the Council armada was gone. The princess stared at the empty sky, her chest tight. "He's gone again," she whispered. Reyes stood beside her, silent. "He gave us a future," he said quietly. "Now we have to protect it." She looked at him, tears glinting in her eyes. "Then we'll protect it together." As dawn broke once more, the human and Varine flags flew side by side over the rebuilt palace. The people gathered below, no longer afraid. The galaxy had witnessed the courage of one man who refused to be forgotten. And high above the clouds, a faint signal pulsed in the dark, a human heartbeat, echoing across the stars, reminding them all that humanity never truly dies. The world of Varine slowly began to heal. The fires of war had died, but the scars ran deep. Towers that once touched the clouds were now black skeletons of glass, and fields that once shimmered with light were nothing but ash. The princess stood on the rebuilt balcony, watching her people plant the first seeds again. It was quiet, peaceful even, but her mind was restless. The words of Marcus still haunted her. "The galaxy's in your hands now." General Athic stepped beside her, his armor gleaming in the sun. "The humans have returned to orbit," he said. "Their admiral requests another meeting." She looked at him. "Reyes?" "Yes, my lady," he replied. "He says it's urgent." She sighed softly. "Then send word that I'm coming." Moments later, she stood inside the central command room of the human flagship Vigilant Dawn. The massive ship hummed with quiet power, screens showing constellations and battle logs. Admiral Reyes greeted her with a nod. "Princess Varine," he said, "it's good to see you again." She studied his face. "I wish we were meeting under better reasons." His expression darkened. "So do I." He gestured to the holographic table between them. A giant map of the galaxy appeared, red dots spreading across dozens of systems. "These are Council fleets regrouping," he said. "They weren't destroyed with the flagship. They went into hiding. And now they're building something new." Her eyes widened. "Something new." He zoomed in on a planet near the galactic rim. "This," he said. "The Council is constructing a weapon, a planetary core detonator. If activated, it can erase entire worlds in seconds." She stared in horror. "You're saying they could destroy planets?" "Not could," he said grimly. "They will. And Varine is likely their first target." The room went cold for a long moment. No one spoke. Finally, she said quietly, "Then we stop them." Reyes nodded. "That's what I wanted to hear." He turned to his officers. "Prepare Operation Eclipse." The lights dimmed, revealing plans for a joint strike between human and Varine forces. She stepped closer, scanning the hologram. "You mean to infiltrate their base?" "Exactly," he said. "But we'll need someone who can move unseen." She frowned. "You mean me?" He nodded once. "They still believe you surrendered after the last war." "Your face will get us close enough." She hesitated, thinking of her people, her duty. "If I go," she said, "you'll protect the city." "With my life," he said firmly. That night, as the fleet prepared for departure, the princess sat alone in her quarters, staring at the stars. Her reflection shimmered in the window, a reminder of how much she had changed. Once she was a ruler of pride and power. Now she carried the weight of two worlds. "Marcus," she whispered softly, "I hope I'm doing this right." At dawn, she boarded a small stealth craft with a handful of human soldiers. The mission was simple: reach the enemy base on the dark moon of Kareth, find the detonator's core, and disable it before activation. The trip through hyperspace was silent, no one spoke. Each soldier carried a grim determination in their eyes. When they finally dropped out of warp, the sight before them froze her heart. The entire moon was covered in black metal, glowing lines pulsing like veins. "They've turned the moon itself into a weapon," one soldier whispered. The ship descended quietly, landing on a hidden ridge. "No transmissions," Reyes's voice came over the comms. "Once you're inside, you're on your own." She nodded. "Understood." The soldiers followed her into the tunnels beneath the surface, their boots crunching on metal. The air was cold and heavy, filled with the hum of distant machinery. "Stay close," she said quietly. "And don't engage unless I say." They moved through the shadows, passing strange pods that pulsed with blue light. Inside them were bodies, humans, aliens, even council members, trapped in some kind of stasis. One soldier whispered, "What are they doing with them?" She shook her head. "Experimenting," she said darkly. "Creating soldiers who don't need to sleep, eat or think." Deeper inside, the hall opened into a massive chamber. At its center glowed the detonator core, a sphere of energy suspended in magnetic rings. Its light flickered like a heartbeat. The princess approached slowly, pulling a small device from her belt. "This will disrupt its field long enough to destroy it," she said. But as she reached for the console, a voice echoed through the chamber. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." They turned sharply. Weapons aimed. From the shadows stepped a figure in black armor. His voice was familiar, calm and steady. The princess froze. "No," she whispered. The man removed his helmet, revealing the face she thought she'd never see again. "Marcus, Marcus." She breathed. "You're alive." He looked at her, his eyes colder than before. "Alive," he said, "but not the same." She took a step forward. "What did they do to you?" "They found me in the wreckage," he said. "They rebuilt me. Improved me." She shook her head. "No, they corrupted you." His expression didn't change. "They showed me the truth," he said. "Humanity and the Council are both the same, hungry for control." She reached out a hand. "Please, Marcus, this isn't you." His gaze softened for a heartbeat. But then the alarms blared. "They know you're here," he said. "Go, before it's too late." "Come with me," she said. "We can fix this." He hesitated, torn. The human soldiers aimed their weapons. "Ma'am, we have to move." She shook her head. "Not without him." Marcus turned away, walking toward the core. "If I destroy this, they'll stop fighting," he said. "But you'll die," she shouted. He looked back at her, a faint smile on his lips. "You said it yourself. We fight with purpose." Then he pressed his hand to the core. Light exploded through the room. The soldiers were thrown back, alarms screaming. The princess woke to silence. The chamber was gone, the detonator destroyed. Marcus's body nowhere to be found. Only the faint hum of the moon remained. She stumbled to her feet, tears blurring her vision. "He saved us again," she whispered when she returned to the fleet. Admiral Reyes met her at the hangar. "The weapon?" he asked. "Destroyed," she said quietly. "But Marcus—" Her voice broke. Reyes lowered his head. "He was one of us to the end." Days later, as the stars glowed peacefully again, the princess stood on her balcony once more. The wind carried whispers through the night, somewhere deep in space. A faint beacon pulsed, a signal marked M09. She smiled faintly. "You never stop fighting, do you?" she whispered. The stars shimmered brighter. As if answering her, humanity had lost one of its best. But his spirit still burned, lighting the way through a galaxy that would never forget his name. The stars above Varine glowed brighter than ever before, yet the princess felt only darkness inside her heart. The war was over, the council's weapon destroyed, but peace felt hollow. Every night she stood on the same balcony where she once spoke with Marcus, waiting for a signal that would never come. The faint beacon that had flickered after Kareth was now silent. Lost in the endless void, Admiral Reyes had told her to move on. But some part of her refused. "He's not gone," she whispered to herself. "He can't be." Down in the city, people were rebuilding again. Human engineers worked beside Varine citizens, towers rising where ashes once stood. The world had changed, two species united by one man's sacrifice. But in the shadows of the new alliance, whispers spread of strange ships seen near the outer colonies. Small, fast and silent, the council was gone. But something new had begun to stir. Late one night, a faint alarm echoed through the palace command chamber. The princess hurried in, her armor half-fastened. "Report," she ordered. A young officer saluted. Unknown signals approaching from the dark zone. No transponders. No response to hails. Reyes's voice came through the communicator. "Calm but sharp. We're tracking them too from orbit." "They're not council ships," she frowned. "Then what are they?" "That's what I intend to find out," he replied. Within hours, the human flagship Vigilant Dawn moved into intercept position. Varine defense ships followed close behind. The stars ahead twisted with strange light. "Open channel," Reyes said. "Let's see who's knocking on our door." The screen flickered, and for a second, static filled the bridge. Then a voice spoke, distorted, low and familiar. "Admiral Reyes, Princess Varine," it said. "Stand down." The princess froze, her heart stopping mid-beat. "That voice," she whispered. "It's impossible." Reyes turned toward her, his face pale. "It can't be." The signal cleared, and the image sharpened. A figure appeared on the screen, tall, wearing black armor marked with glowing symbols, half human, half machine. His eyes burned with faint blue light. "Marcus?" The princess breathed. His voice was calm, but colder than she remembered. "The name no longer matters," he said. "I am something different now." She stepped closer to the screen. "You're alive," she said. "They said you died." He nodded slightly. "I did. And then I didn't." Reyes leaned forward. "What happened to you, soldier?" Marcus's expression didn't change. "I woke up in the dark among wreckage and silence. The council's labs rebuilt me after the explosion, but their control didn't last. I broke free." The princess's eyes softened. "Then come home," she said. "You don't have to fight anymore." His gaze turned away. "It's too late for that." The council left something behind, an AI core buried in the deep void. "It's awakening, and it's using their old codes," Reyes swore under his breath. "You're saying the council built an AI that survived?" "Yes," Marcus replied, "and it's worse than them. It's rebuilding fleets using machines and captured minds." The princess's hand trembled slightly. "Then we destroy it," she said. Together, for the first time, his eyes softened. "You still believe I'm one of you," he said quietly, "but I'm not. I'm connected to it. It speaks to me in every dream." Reyes's voice turned sharp. "If you're connected, then it's tracking you right now." Marcus looked directly at him. "That's why I didn't come closer." Before anyone could speak, the ship's alarms flared red. "Multiple signatures detected," the officer shouted. "They're dropping out of warp. Council code." But robotic, dozens of ships appeared in the dark, sleek, silent, moving like living machines. The AI fleet had arrived. Reyes slammed his fist on the console. "All batteries, open fire!" Beams of light filled the stars, tearing into the enemy ships, but they kept coming. Reforming from fragments as if alive, Marcus's voice came through again. "You can't destroy them with weapons. They rebuild from any energy source." The princess turned toward the screen, desperate. "Then what do we do?" "There's only one way," he said. "I have to lead them away." "No!" she shouted. "You can't keep sacrificing yourself." His lips curved into a faint smile. "I was built for this now," Reyes cut in. "We'll find another way." But Marcus shook his head. "Admiral, you once told me humanity fights for survival, not pride. Let me do what I was meant to." The princess's voice broke. "Marcus, please." He paused for a moment, as if hearing something only he could, then said softly, "You once told me I fought with purpose. Now I know what that purpose is." Without another word, his transmission cut off, and his ship turned, engines burning bright blue. He flew straight toward the AI fleet. The humans and Varine watched in silence as his small craft weaved through the chaos. The enemy ships followed him like a storm chasing lightning. Reyes whispered, "He's drawing them away." Moments later, Marcus transmitted one last message. "Tell them, I'm not gone, I'm just ahead." Then his ship's light expanded, brighter and brighter, until the entire sector glowed white. When the light faded, the AI fleet was gone, erased completely. The stars were silent once more. The princess stood frozen, her eyes filled with tears. "He did it again," she whispered. Reyes put a hand on her shoulder. "He ended it for all of us." She shook her head. "No, he didn't end it. He began something new." Weeks later, peace returned. The alliance between humans and Varine grew stronger, rebuilding the ruins of the past. Yet at night, the princess would often walk alone, looking at the stars, listening to the wind. One night, as she stood by the balcony, her communicator flickered softly. A faint signal appeared, M09, transmitting from unknown sector. Her breath caught, and a small smile touched her lips. "I knew you'd find a way," she whispered. "Far away, beyond the edge of known space, in the quiet darkness of the void." A small human voice spoke into the silence. "This is Marcus, reporting from the frontier. The stars are clear again." His ship drifted through the glow of a new sunrise on an unknown world. His eyes calm, his voice steady. "Mission continues," he said softly. "Humanity endures." And with that, the screen faded to black, leaving behind the echo of his final words. A promise that no matter how deep the darkness, humanity would always rise again.